Welcome back to Healthy Habersham, keeping you healthy with a doctor close to home. Brought to you by Habersham Medical Center. I am Hazel Courting, and today we are with Dr. Maribel Miller with New Day Pediatrics. I'm going to spit that out one way or another. So, Dr. Miller, we were talking about heat exhaustion and that sort of thing. Real quick, I do want to get to the bug bites, but let's talk about children being left in cars and things like that, because you don't do that even if it's 2 seconds. So give us your quick tips on that.
Well, I have a child of my own, and I know it's very inconvenient to unbuckle and buckle when you know you're going to just be a second. Oh, in quotations, of course. What we think might take a second or we perceive as a second might be 5 minutes. And the temperature in your car can reach over 100 degrees pretty rapidly. With the sun, with the high humidity we're having these days, even people are saying you shouldn't even leave your pets in the car, less your child.
Well, bringing that up, most people would never dare leave their pet in the car, yeah. But they think of children for some reason a little bit different. Maybe because they walk and they talk and they could call for help, but that's not always the case.
That's not always the case. And, children can lose consciousness. They can actually die from overheating. So just what you think is 5 minutes, 20 minutes in a car, for somebody that's extremely small, that could be life-threatening.
So definitely no leaving your children in the car. Pools.
Yes, ma'am.
We want to make sure that all pools have fences around them.
Yes, and nowadays, all these inflatable pools and above ground pools are very popular too. And, we think since they're above ground, children can reach them, but they are really pliable. So, a child can lean on it and fall inside. So they do require fences too, or at least some kind of fencing to try to avoid drownings. Of non-accidental injuries in children every year, 30% are drownings in pools. So we got to be careful with that.
That's much higher than what I expected you to say. How much water does it take for a child to drown in?
Well, depending on the age, children younger than a year, they can drown in 2 inches of water.
So it doesn't take very much at all. And make sure, of course, that you cover your pools to prevent anyone from falling in, something like that. So, okay, bug bites. I have a curious question about mosquitoes. With all this rain, of course, we've got a lot of standing water all over the place, and places that we wouldn't even think about, water standing. I mean, there could be, something laying out in the woods that would just, have a little, even less than an inch of standing water, and this could be a haven for mosquitoes breeding. Now, this has always been a concern over the past few years. West Nile virus comes from mosquitoes. Tell us about the activity. We hear a lot about that.
Well, there have been hearsay of some cases in Georgia of West Nile virus. It's been 1 or 2, but they're mainly imported cases. As of July 16th, the CDC has not had any reports of any cases of West Nile virus that originated in Georgia, which is at least is reassuring, but still you need to be safe.
Now, are there any way that we can prevent getting West Nile virus or any, protect ourselves against these mosquito bites in general?
Well, prevention has several parts. The first one that we need to consider is actually decreasing the population of mosquitoes. So if you have a birth bath, for example, if you have kiddie pools, little things like that we kind of take for granted. Or if it rains and you have a fire pit and it gets water inside, they do recommend that they be emptied out at least once a week, if not more. So the mosquito don't lay their eggs in it and larvae reproduce. If you have an old tire in your yard, do get rid of it, because they do tend to retain water, and it's dark and it's a nice place for them to reproduce. The pots of our plants, we have to make sure that there's no standing water, or if you have empty pots, store them upside down so that when it rains, they don't get filled up with water. So that's one way to try to prevent it, is trying to reduce the population. The other way to prevent it is actually protecting ourselves.
Okay, I have a big question. I am very susceptible to mosquitoes.
Yep.
They absolutely love me. Okay? Who gets mosquito bites and who doesn't? And what makes that mosquito come to me and bite me and maybe not you? I mean, I can be in a group of people and I'll be the only one getting bit by a mosquito. Or when my children were smaller, my daughter would get bit, but my son wouldn't. What is it about that mosquito that's so picky?
Well, they've done studies trying to find the specific agent, and it's been very hard to find. So they can't say 100% it's definitely this one thing. Mosquitoes go by scent. So, that's why, they'd recommend if you're going to be outside, don't wear perfumes or smelly soaps or things like that, because that attracts mosquitoes. And there's certain chemicals in sweat that will attract mosquitoes. So if you're sweaty, I don't know if you notice that bugs come to you more when you're sweaty.
Honey, I don't sweat.
Okay.
Do I look like a runner? Do I look like... You've seen me around town. I wear those tall shoes. Do I look like I'm running and sweating?
But there are certain scents in our bodies that, that's why they recommend not to use perfumes or a lot of scented soaps, or even some hairspray can attract mosquitoes.
Now, I was watching a show earlier this week, and it said that they actually think that maybe O negative blood attracts mosquitoes. Have you heard that?
I have heard about blood types. I have heard about cholesterol levels.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. But the studies have not been 100% proven, so I cannot make any bets right now.
Okay. What about different types of clothing, things like that?
Well, actually, bright colors, or I know it sounds silly, but flower prints will attract insects more than those that are kind of like a pale color and not as bright.
So be very depressed looking when you go outside.
There you go. But lighter colors in the sense of whites and lighter pinks, not really bright oranges and blues, because they'll love it.
Okay, how about mosquito repellents or bug repellents? Now, I know as an adult, I don't have a problem using some of these on me, but I've never felt that those were safe for children. So tell us, what are your feelings about that?
Well, based on the recommendations from the American Academy of Pediatrics, there are several ones that we can use. The ones that have DEET, D-E-E-T, can be used in children over 2 months of age.
Okay.
And of course, we need to avoid the hands and the face.
I was going to ask you about that because infants love to suck their hands.
Mm-hmm.
So
we try to avoid using it on hands and face, but we can use, and they come from 10% to 30% concentration. And the concentration, what it mainly means is how long it'll last. Okay. So like 10% will last about 2 hours, 30% can last about 5 hours.
Okay.
So that will be the main difference. There are other ones that have other chemicals on it that we can use, but usually those are recommended for older children.
Okay. All right. So anything with DEET, and that's D-E-E-T, is safe for 2 months and older.
Yes.
Okay.
With 2 E's. I said 3.
I think I said 3 too. Oh well, look on your package. It'll tell you 2 months and older. Okay. And so anything else that
we can use insect repellent on our skin, but then you can also use. There's some that are actually made for clothing. Like you can see a lot of hunters should know about permethrin that you can actually put on your clothes. Now, I know it's hot and I know we're burning up, but if you're susceptible to insect bites, you should be wearing long sleeves, you should be wearing long-legged pants and socks to cover skin that can be accessible to bugs.
One last thing. If you get stung, what should we do?
Well, if you get mosquito bites, applying a cold pack is helpful because you're reacting to the mosquito saliva. That's why you get swollen. You can use hydrocortisone cream, you can use calamine, or if it's pretty massive and you're itching a lot, you can use oral antihistamines like
Okay.
Benadryl.
All right. Sounds good. Dr. Maribel Miller, thank you so much for joining us here today on Healthy Habersham and for all the information. And make sure that you take care of your kids out there this hot July. You've been listening to Healthy Habersham here on WCHM 96.7 FM and AM 1490.